As a Chinese student at an American university, I want to talk about the positive stereotypes Chinese students receive on American campus. I do have a deep feeling about the most commonly mentioned point: Chinese students do well in school. There are probably two kinds of people in our school. One who cares so much about grades that want to get an A in every subject. But there are still some students who don't care about their grades very much and play all day long. Well, in my school, the former account for a larger proportion, which also includes me. Therefore, the stereotype is not unreasonable. The main reason is a competition mechanism of Chinese schools. Due to the large population base, students have to produce involution. Involution is a very popular word on the Chinese internet recently. It is generally used to describe the excessive competition in a certain field, which leads people into a state of mutual strife and internal friction. It's like that everyone is sitting at a theater and all of a sudden, someone is standing up in the front row and the person who is in the way has to stand up too. And then everybody stand up to see the show and nobody's sitting down. But really, everyone is supposed to sit through the show. This kind of vicious competition causes more Chinese students to be more demanding of themselves and has created this kind of seemingly positive stereotype. From the beginning of my freshman year, almost every professor I met thought that Chinese students do well in exams, but they're quiet and reserved in class and don't speak during the discussions. After all, it is taken for granted that good grades and a positive impression. A big reason for this is that in Chinese middle school, grades were often the only criterion for judging students, and the only criterion for deciding whether they can enter the higher school. It can be said that in their teens, scores are the only standardized criteria they can access, and even determine their personal value. These scores are often so precise that even a small difference can leave them behind someone. Well, as a result, Chinese students are so used to comparing themselves with others that even small differences can make them shudder. American school grades are often divided by A, B, C, D, F, which also weakens competition among students, and they have other criteria besides grades at the entrance stage, which makes students less likely to compete for marks than Chinese. And when Chinese students like me enter a competitive environment where grades are no longer the only yardstick, such as American campus or in the workplace, we often feel overwhelmed. While on the other hand, we will still be in the habit of pursuing perfect grades, and on the other hand, we will find that new criteria besides grades and invest in new areas to catch up with others in new fields. This will make the students more tired. I did a survey last year on the anxiety level of my classmates and found that a large number of them were suffering from severe academic pressure and peer pressure. They feel that they can't deal with life stresses, realities, or relationships, and that they have to study hard, but that only causes them more stress. Well, in my own case, when I first entered my university, I found that my scores were generally higher than those of my classmates, even though I was not an outstanding student in my high school class. With an better self-awareness, I started studying more seriously, spending more time on homework, and trying to pass over my classmates in every exam. By the end of my freshman year, I had a 4.0, which is full GPA and a first-class scholarship. But the truth is, it didn't make my college life any happier. After entering the second year of college, the course became more difficult, and because of my high self-expectation, I took 6 courses in one semester and expected to get an A in all the courses. It was actually out of my league. So I started staying up late every day, getting pummeled by less than ideal grades like A minus. The constant mental breakdown, and the assumption from myself and those around me that you should get a higher score almost overwhelms me. While maintaining this positive stereotype in the West, Chinese students are also criticized for their lack of rigid thinking ability. Each child is a precious seed. It will grow into what kind of tree we sometimes do not know. The current stereotype creates a situation where everyone thinks there should be apple trees in the orchard, and gardeners, which teachers and parents are asked to pick the tallest tree and weed out all the seedlings that are not tall enough and cut them down in cold blood. Finally, everyone began to complain. Why don't other fruits grow in the orchard?